Oh, it's being recorded. I'm out of here.
Welcome to Muir Land Trust Twilight 2021, the dawning of Family Harvest Farm. And yes, it's being recorded, so Mary Terry's out of here. In just a minute, we'll get started. Feel free to announce yourself in the chat with your name and your favorite veggie that grows in the garden. Well, I guess we could talk about our favorite veggies that grow in the garden. Mary, what's your favorite veggie that grows in the garden?
I would say cauliflower and cucumbers and carrots.
Jack, how about you?
Well, definitely tomatoes, no
Oh,
question.
tomatoes too.
Or you can't have those, Mary. They're mine.
I love them all. I can't just choose one. What about you, Hannah?
You know, I would choose kale.
Wow.
I just love kale. I could eat kale for pretty much every meal, and I just love it. All right, so again, we're going to be getting started in just a few minutes, so feel free to announce yourself in the chat with your name and your favorite veggie that grows in the garden. All right, well, I think that we can get started. So I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. And Mary, Jack, you can see my housekeeping slide, right?
Yes.
Great, just checking. So this webinar is being recorded and all participants are muted. Please use the Q&A buttons for questions for us and use the chat for questions as well. So welcome to our second event of Twilight 2021, the dawning of Family Harvest Farm. In this presentation, you will learn about the newest community program of Muir Land Trust, Family Harvest Farm. And you will learn how Family Harvest Farm is developing to bring agriculture and community to youth and adults in Pittsburgh, California, and the surrounding area. And also you will learn what farming practices we use to grow our produce on the farm. And thanks to Angelica Glass for our special sunrise photo shoot in this image here. We'd also like to thank our event sponsors today, Marathon, Phillips 66, Bank of the West, East Bay Regional Park District, Deutsche Properties, Chevron, and of course, our partners at Lindsay Wildlife Experience and Astronomical Society of the Pacific. Thank you, and we cannot host Twilight without you. And we could not have created the farm without community support as well from these organizations and many others. I would like to thank John Muir Community Health Fund for generously funding Family Harvest Farm. And I would also like to thank our core collaborators, First Place for Youth, Uplift Family Services, Youth Homes, and the Independent Living Skills Program. Thanks to any of those representatives who are visiting from these organizations and attending today, board of directors and staff. We look forward to seeing you all at the farm. And then a little bit of an introduction for who you'll be hearing from today. I would like to briefly introduce Mary Terry, our fabulous farm manager. Mary, would you like to share again your favorite veggie or fruit?
It's too hard. I love so many. But I would say cauliflower, but then I would also say cucumbers and then carrots.
Wonderful. And Jack Cordes, one of our co-founders of Family Harvest Farm, who dreamed up this vision. Jack, what's your favorite vegetable again?
Tomatoes.
Wonderful. And my name's Hannah Hodgson. I'm the Farmly Harvest Farm Program Manager, and I'm sticking with kale. It's simple, but I could eat it every day. So I've got to say that. And we've also got 30 folks joining us online. So please announce yourself in the chat with your name and your favorite fruit or veggie, and we'll hear from you about that. Thanks for being with us here today. So a little bit about John Muir Land Trust. John Muir Land Trust is the 501c3 nonprofit umbrella of Family Harvest Farm. And our mission is to protect and care for open space, ranches, farms, and parkland and shoreline in the East Bay. And our vision is to connect people to the land. This is a map of John Muir Land Trust service area, Contra Costa and Alameda counties, with more than 3,500 acres and 17 properties now under our stewardship. Many of the most beautiful places in the East Bay are permanently preserved for recreation, wildlife, and scenic views. And you can see Family Harvest Farm on this map in the top right near the Delta. As a part of John Muir Land Trust's vision, we foster environmental awareness. You may have joined us at Twilight at Fernandez Ranch like this family in years past to meet wildlife, gaze at the stars, and learn about what happens in the East Bay Hills when the sun goes down. And at this Twilight event, we are focusing on what happens in the East Bay Hills when the sun comes up with the dawning of Family Harvest Farm. And I would like to introduce one of the people who dreamed up Family Harvest Farm, Jack Cordes, who also serves on the board of John Muir Land Trust. Without co-founders Jack Cordes and Kim Overall, the farm would have not been standing today. And they are great examples of how a dream can really become a reality. Jack, thanks for being here today, and I'll pass over the presentation to you.
Thank you, Hannah, and welcome everyone. It's really a pleasure to have you want to learn more about the farm. This started about 6 years ago. My daughter and her husband were fostering infants. One of them became my granddaughter, Leilani, and Ashley, my daughter, and they're on this call. So welcome you two. During this process of them fostering infants, I had known something about the foster system, but not very much. I did some research. I learned of the huge issue that exists for those foster youth who are not adopted, who go through the system living in foster homes or group homes. And at 18, when they turn 18, we basically, as a society, just let them go. They're often without any support, without jobs. Housing's difficult. There are many issues for them. Some are traumatized through their life before going into foster care, and also some, unfortunately, within foster care. So they have some serious issues. I had researched this at the same time I had become a master gardener in Contra Costa, and came to me that perhaps horticulture farming could help heal and provide therapy to these young people. So I set out to research, do more research on similar situations. I located the Santa Cruz Homeless Garden Project, and I volunteered there, saw their program, and directly is how I met Mary. We were fortunate to have some connections there, and Mary was introduced to us, and she ended up relocating and coming up here. It was fantastic for us that Mary joined us. About the same time, we had met Linus Uckel. Kim had met Linus. Linus wanted to know more about the farm. We met. We were searching for a site at the time. Linus said, "I'll help you find a site." He did. The site is in Pittsburgh, California. And we set out to get approval for the site, raise funds, start the infrastructure. We did receive approval in November of 2018. We started construction in 2019. And we were going to open in March of 2020, but of course, COVID kind of interrupted that a bit. But we did actually start the farm in June of last year, of 2020. We have 9 youth there now. Well, we hope to have up to 15 by the end of the summer. And they're learning, the idea was that they would learn foundational job skills, uh, how to work for a boss, how to work in a team, how to, have a schedule, work on a schedule, and hopefully also develop some community. We've learned a lot in this first year, but we're really feeling good about the way these young people have responded to one another and to the work at the farm. They support one another. We're very happy about that. They're developing a community among themselves. They are healing. Some of them have had trauma in their life, as I mentioned, and there's been a healing process going on. And we're very pleased. We haven't had because of COVID, we haven't been able to provide, we haven't had much in the way of, a lot of people wanted to volunteer, but we have not been able to have a lot of people out there because of the COVID restrictions. But now they're starting to loosen up, and many of the people who have worked, who have asked if they could be there, we will ask you to come out. I think there's been some major volunteer support. The Lumber in the Sunrise Rotary has been very helpful to us. And Hannah, if you want to show that greenhouse on the next slide or the second.
Sure. Just flip through some of these slides here.
Sorry, before we go on, that's Mary, of course, and this is one of our apprentices working out there. And you can see there's not much there. There's a lot more now from when this picture was taken. We have a lot of beds growing, a lot of vegetables growing as we speak. This was what the site looked like. And if you drive out there now, you'll see it's a major difference. We have structures there and a lot of growing beds and roads, parking. There's just a lot going on out there right now. Next slide. This is our actual site plan. And it was built out pretty much the way this is, and all the way to the north, to the upper part. That's all basically in crops right now. So we have about a third of it in crops, I would say, but we have a long ways to go. We're going to put an orchard down to the southern part and some more vegetable crops, but a lot of that will be orchard. But that's another year or so away. And we've seen really good results from the soil there. It's very hard clay soil, and Mary's going to talk about the farming aspects. So I'm not going to talk about that very much, but we've seen really good results there on the site. And yeah, here's our greenhouse that was donated by the Lumber in the Sunrise Rotary. So we're very thankful for that. They're also building a vegetable wash station, and a chicken coop is on the way. So, and they've helped with 2 shipping containers, and it's been a really good partnership with them. Hannah's already mentioned the John Muir Community Health Fund, and they've been fantastic, helping us with developing our business plan, funding us for the first year and hopefully the second. It's been a really good partnership. We're very thankful for that to them, to Lillian and Mary at the Community Health Fund. I think that, Hannah, is there any more slides on my portion of this?
Yeah.
Oh, we got more?
That's it for your slides. I mean, you can keep talking, but I do have some questions for you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've got some feedback and a few folks sharing their favorite veggies. So Katie Hill, she likes snow peas. Great, Stephanie's into carrots. Steven is into carrots and tomatoes. Kathy also likes cauliflower. And so many things you can do with that vegetable. Who knew? Lillian appreciates artichokes. Thanks, Lillian. Thanks for being here. Colin, coffee. Thanks, Colin. Likes lettuce. Oh, great. We're just going to be planting some next week. Leilani, who was mentioned earlier, her favorite vegetable is tomatoes, perhaps just like your grandpa. How sweet. Renee just discovered butternut squash. And Tom, he is with Jack. He likes tomatoes, but aren't they a fruit? Well, we're doing tomatoes and veggies here. Maura likes apricots, Karen cicada, gailan. All right, Karen, we'll have to learn from you about that. Liz loves tomatoes. Oh, this is so great. Antoinette, thank you for joining us. She's on board with collard greens, or a mixture of okra, corn, and tomatoes. Awesome, wonderful. And Diane likes watermelons. Great. Well, thanks everyone for sharing. If you have any questions for Jack, let us know. He's here for questions about how the farm developed. And then we're going to be diving next into learning about how the farm grows, which is what we're all here for. So, Jack, if you would like to introduce our favorite, Mary Cherry. Now she's up on the screen twice.
And that's, I will be happy to introduce Mary. And in the screenshot, she's holding some of our beautiful soil with a fabulous worm hanging off the side. So Mary, go ahead. Mary came to us from Santa Cruz. We met at the Homeless Garden Project where she was working there, and she subsequently went on to some other farms. She joined us 3 years ago. Mary, how long ago was that?
3 years ago, July.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Anyway, it's my honor to introduce Mary Cherry to the group. Go ahead, Mary.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Hannah. Well, one thing I noticed is that Antoinette said one of her favorite veggies is okra, and I didn't mention that one, but it's also one of my favorites. Sadly, the squirrels are eating all of ours. But anyways, I wanted to talk about regenerative agriculture and what we're doing on the farm to keep the earth healthy. We use regenerative farming practices at the farm. And then you might say, what is regenerative farming? Regenerative land that has not been cared for. Sorry, regenerating land that has not been cared for. And then why do it? To support natural water cycles, increase biodiversity, enhance ecosystems, increase resilience and climate change, and sequestering carbon. I love this slide because Hannah put, how does your farm grow? And you guys know the Mary, quite contrary. Anyways. Mary, the main practice of regenerative farming is building healthy soil. I like to think of myself as a soil farmer rather than just a plant farmer. The soil has to be healthy to grow healthy plants. So first, our main focus is the soil, and then that's how you get healthy plants. What does building soil mean? We turn dirt into healthy soil. So soil is actually made of, or a healthy soil is made of water, air, organic matter, and minerals, not to mention fungus and microbes. And it's not just dirt, there's tons of life in the soil. 1 tablespoon of healthy soil has more life in it than all the people on the planet. That's just 1 tablespoon. It's crazy. I love that. We did a microorganism test at the farm before we began to work. There was some fungus, but not a whole lot of other bacteria going on. After building a bed, lasagna style, which is basically how it sounds, I put different layers of carbon, nitrogen. I even got seaweed from the ocean and brought it and put that down as a layer. And then after a year, we did another test and it was teeming with life. So there were tons of microbes. That includes bacteria and fungus, which is what we want. One of the greatest, one of the regenerative practices we use is vermiculture, which is teaming with worms to help support healthy soil. So we have a relationship with our worms and they make castings for us, and then we collect their castings, and which are full of all kinds of healthy bacteria that the soil needs to be able to help the plants grow healthy. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous, guys. Excuse me.
Great, Mary Terry.
So we provide worms with organic material and they supply us with healthy soil. We actually have this thing, what I call is the worm berm, but it's technically called a worm rick. It's just really fun to say, a worm berm. And we brought, a lot of people ask, where did you get the worms? Are they there? But we did bring them in. And we just continue to feed them and keep them wet. And they provide us with all this really good, healthy compost. That includes their poop. In this slide here, Hannah, you want to switch the slide? Sorry. Hannah, you there?
Yes, I am. Do you see the slide with the mushroom?
Yep, there it is. Sorry.
No, Mary. Yep.
In this slide, you can actually see a mushroom growing, which is what we want. We want fungus on our land. You might be wondering what those sticks are in the soil in this photo. Those are corn stalks. So after a crop is finished, instead of ripping out the roots and everything, we actually just cut it off right at the base and leave the roots in the soil. And the reasons that we do that is, as we mentioned above, healthy soil has air and microbes and organic matter. So it actually feeds the organic matter from the roots, feed the microbes and create air in the soil. So there's all these, like, as the roots break down, it ends up being little air pockets and food for the microbes. And then we don't disturb the soil at all. As you can see in this photo, you see a tarp covering a bed. When not using a bed, we cover it so that the microbes remain moist and can access the carbon rather than having the carbon released into the atmosphere. So every time there's a bare bed, all that carbon is just going back into the atmosphere instead of being held without plants or anything covering it in the ground. You might also notice the plants are covered in mulch, which keeps moisture in the ground and brings lots of fungus, which is beneficial for our soil. The third thing you might notice, there are carrots and onions growing in this bed. Growing multiple crops in one bed creates biodiversity. In a natural ecosystem, you don't see one kind of plant growing in one spot, you see diversity. So if you go into the forest, you're going to see all different kinds of plants growing with each other. So this is our amazing, well, these are our seedlings. They're squash seedlings. We use the greenhouse to start all of our babies. It's a kind of nursery for our plants. Well, it is actually called a nursery, but I like to think of it as like a real nursery. They're like our babies. And I imagine this is like preschool for our little babies. And then when you send them out into the field, it's like sending them off to college. And then these are our cucumbers that are now planted in our farm beds. And here we have peppers, which are now in the field as well. This is our first harvest. This was our first harvest of corn back, when was that? Thanksgiving time. We gave a lot of it away. Apprentices took some home, and we also made sapote for our Thanksgiving meal on the farm. And then this one is cabbage, both Napa and Caraflex. And here we have Romanesco and snap peas. Romanesco is also another veggie that I love. And then these are flowers that are growing in our kitchen garden. And in this slide, you see beets growing in our beds. and cut up beets for our beet dip that we made at lunchtime. And then you might wonder how, when you know that beets are ready, and then in this slide on the right-hand side, you'll see a little beet popping up. As soon as you see that beet, you actually get to decide what size you want it to be. And then you pick it. And actually this year we grew beets that were the size of my head. I had honestly only ever seen a beet that big, a little bit bigger than that actually, at a fair. This year we planted 8 fruit trees that are doing amazing. We planted 2 pluots, 2 cherries, 2 figs, 1 apple, 1 lemon. And since we planted these, we actually planted 3 more figs and 2 loquat trees and a bunch of native shrubs that are too many names to acknowledge right now. And then in this slide, you'll see one of our amazing, awesome apprentices cutting potatoes. So before you plant a potato, you'll cut them into halves or thirds, as long as there's 1 or more eye on each piece that you cut. And then you let them kind of scab over for a couple days, and then you plant them in the ground. And what other veggies can you plant straight in the ground? Honestly, you could buy an onion at a store, cut it in half, eat 1 half, and then put the other half on the ground, and it'll grow another onion. It's kind of cool. Also, you could do garlic, potatoes, and bulbs of any kind, usually flower bulbs. And where does our produce go? So one of the ways is healthy lunches for our apprentices and volunteers. We also let the apprentices take as much of the produce as they want home. Something I've noticed is that when they first come on, they don't really take a lot of produce, and the longer they're there, they get more into it, more into cooking with vegetables. So that's definitely a bonus. This is one of our very first lunches made with all the produce from the farm. We started cooking just on Tuesdays, I would say a couple months ago, and it's been just from all the produce that we get on the farm that we grow, and it's been awesome. We actually made pesto, arugula pesto, and beet soup and salad. And then there's no picture of the beet soup, but it was super beautiful. And the other way we distribute produce is through community supported agriculture. So this year we will be doing a test run CSA trial in the fall. One of the other ways we give away produce is by giving it away on the streets. Actually on the street right outside of the farm, as you can see in this slide. We've done that a few times when we had so much produce and we still don't quite have a outlet for it yet. We just give it away on the streets, and it just gets taken up so quickly. This year we are planning on having a more regular farm stand. So we actually had we sold some produce on a farm stand a couple Fridays ago, and it went super well. And we continue to keep on doing that as we can. And then lastly, the other way we distribute our produce is local food banks and other groups who feed the community. I'm going to skipped ahead a little bit there. So yeah, it's really fun for the apprentices to be able to see where their produce is going. So I'm going to hand this back to Hannah now, but I wanted to thank you for being interested in the farm, and thank you for sharing this beautiful space with us that we are so proud of. And please come and volunteer. Hannah, here you go.
Thanks, Mary Cherry. Great job. You did a great job describing all of these things. I look at the conversation going on, and Colin says, "This is making me hungry." Yeah, and me too. It's perfect. Right before dinner, everyone's going to be inspired, I'm sure, to go and pick some produce and cook it up into an arugula pesto that Mary was describing. Another one of the fun meals that we made out at the farm was inspired by one of our apprentices. And she had the idea, she eats vegan food, the idea to take carrots and boil them up, turn them into, and then kind of cook them on the barbecue and turn them into hot dogs. Mary, do you want to share your experience with that hot dog?
Yeah, so at first when she had told me that, I was like, that sounds weird. She's like, I know it sounds weird to me too, but we had so many carrots. We're like, we got to do something with these carrots, so let's try it out. And everybody I had mentioned to, they're like, that sounds weird. But then when we did it, it was just as delicious, or maybe even more delicious than a hot dog in a bun, because we had all the good stuff on top, things that you would put on a hot dog. It was quite delicious, and we definitely want to do it again.
Yes. All right. Well, if folks have questions for Mary, feel free to pop them into the Q&A bubbles. And Mary, just so you know, I'm seeing a lot of compliments to your presentation in the chat here. So thank you for presenting. Folks are happy to hear from you. And Antoinette is saying carrot bacon is also very good. Thank you, Antoinette. And David is saying we use our carrot tops to make delicious pesto and chimichurri. Wow. So we could use carrot tops. I don't know what to do with carrot tops.
I've actually done that once, and it was super delicious. Pesto, not chimichurri.
Okay, great. That's awesome. So one of the questions that I like to, talk with Mary about, and we talked about it before the presentation, is Mary, with your experience in the foster care system, if you would like to share what some of that experience is and how that relates to our foster youth or our apprentices.
Yeah, so some of you may know I was a foster youth from 8 to 18, and I aged out of the foster system in 18 before it went to 21, although I wouldn't have stayed anyways. I couldn't wait to get out. But leaving the system, I was very happy, and then found that I actually didn't really know how to take care of myself, and then I didn't really have a whole lot of support. I ended up homeless for many years, honestly, from 18 to 24, 23. And so after I found a farm myself that's very similar to this one, the Homeless Garden Project, I worked there for 3 years and found community and found what I wanted to do. And that's to be able to farm with other people who were in my situation, because I found a lot of empowerment and a lot of belief in myself through that. And I wanted to be able to share that with others, and connection to the land that I never even knew I was missing. So the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing today is when Jack actually came to the farm and he was like, I'm starting this program, and he met my son's dad was like, no way, my son's mom wants to do this exact thing, you should call her. And it was like fate meeting Jack. And since then I've been here, and it's better than I ever imagined. My relationship with the apprentices and my relationship with the land, I'm filled with gratefulness. Yeah, that's it, Hannah.
Thanks, Mary. I know that I appreciate you sharing a lot, and that you have a lot of wisdom to share on that. So I appreciate you giving us a snapshot of that. It's great. We do have some questions. There's some comments in the chat. This program is wonderfully inspiring. Great job. Thank you, Elliot. That's great to hear. We have some questions about farming and food. So when will you be selling a cookbook to accompany the healthy produce you sell? From Tom Gayette. All right. Well, I don't know if we have a timeline for that, Tom, but I appreciate the excitement. And you know what? There's Diane as well as asking, will you be sharing the recipes on the JMLT website? So yeah, we've got a lot of interest in that, and that's great. I don't know if we can copyright that hot dog recipe or what, but maybe if there's some way to do it. Okay, another question from Stephen. Are potatoes the only plants that grow on the ground? So Mary, maybe you want to answer some veggies plants that grow on the ground, like potatoes.
You mean in the ground?
Well, how do potatoes grow, Mary?
Okay.
Like, do they grow?
Yeah, potatoes, we actually dig about a 3 to 6 inch trench, and then we plop the potatoes in, and then we cover them up. And as they grow, we actually have to keep putting soil over them because they actually start poking out of the ground. And then when you harvest them, it's actually one of my favorite vegetables in the world, to harvest. Not that I've harvested all the vegetables in the world, but out of all the vegetables I've harvested, it is one of my favorites because you just really never know what you're going to get. You could have a huge plant with only 2 potatoes under there. You could have a super tiny plant with 6 potatoes. And so it really is like a treasure hunt, harvesting potatoes, which is fun. It's exciting.
And what other vegetables grow in the ground like potatoes?
Well, sweet potatoes. Onions do, but you know how big they're going to be. They give you a little hint by how they poke out on the ground. Beets do too, but they also give you a hint. Potatoes, you just really never know. There's a lot of flowers, like flower bulbs that dahlias, for one, are very similar to potatoes. You could dig up a dahlia and get 3 tubers, just like you can a potato. But I can't really think of any other vegetable that grows like a potato besides sweet potatoes, but I've never grown them, so I'm not even sure.
Mm-hmm.
We are growing them this year though, for the first time ever. I haven't harvested them yet.
All right, and Maureen is reminding us carrots and radishes also grow in the ground. Not quite mystery like potatoes, but yeah, we've got radishes and carrots in the ground. Let's see. John wants to know, what's our plan for chickens? This is from Papa John, the chicken man in Lafayette.
So I'm not exactly sure. We know we're sorry, I'm stuttering a little bit because that's still underway. We're still trying to figure it out. We're definitely going to have chickens, and the Rotary is going to build us a really cool chicken condominium. But the timeline is still a little bit unknown. But yeah.
Jack, you want to add to that?
I think it's been approved and it's planned. I would say several months out.
Yes, another thing.
There are several Rotarians in the audience, so maybe one of them wants to, if they have a better schedule than I do, they could chime in.
Yeah, it's just another example of us having the pleasure of working with La Miranda Sunrise Rotary and helping us out. So they are coming with the chicken. All right, let me see. We've got some more questions here. How do I condition, from Tom Guyette, speaking of Sunrise Rotary, how do I condition soil with a lot of sandstone? This might be, I'm not sure if we know the answer to this. For Mary,
actually, I just watched a really cool permaculture documentary, Tom, that I could send to you, about building soil over sandstone. And I think that basically what they did is that lasagna technique that I did for our kitchen garden.
Lasagna style. Okay.
Yeah, but it is possible. It's possible. I watched this documentary. It was amazing. And what they created over sandstone was beautiful.
Nice. And an update from Tom about the chickens. The official word, there will be a chicken palace. So there we go. Thanks, Tom. Okay, so how about this? Do either of you know how to grow jicama?
I've never grown jicama.
All right, so we're not sure, John, about jicama, but I like to eat jicama, so I would like to learn.
Well, they grow it in Watsonville, so I know it's possible to do it. It might be maybe too hot here because they grow it on the coast, but be something to look into for sure.
All right, so I've got another question for you, Mary and Jack, but I don't want you guys to rip your hair out. Do you have to worry about critters eating or digging in your garden?
Yeah, I'm gonna rip my hair out. No, I'm just joking. Well, you remember I was talking about the okra earlier. Well, I was really excited about this okra because it's one of my favorite vegetables, and I only planted 2 beds of it. And the squirrels actually ate over half of the beds so far. So yeah, we have to deal with a lot of, we have major squirrel pressure at the farm that we're trying to remedy.
And Jack, would you like to add to that question for that answer?
Oh, I think they're going to be a big problem for a long time. They're very resourceful. We blocked them from the outside, but from getting in, but they figured out ways that we couldn't get all the ones from the inside. So we still have a pretty big population inside. We're working on it, but it's going to be a struggle. Like I said, they're normally not nocturnal, but I think they are nocturnal because we're there most of the day. So they've trained themselves to be out at night now. There's some other ways we can work on it, but it's a big problem.
It gets super tricky on the weekends because that's when most of the damage happens because nobody's there.
And they are ground squirrels. I see another question about that. Yes, they're definitely ground squirrels.
Yes. So Stephen's recommending build a squirrel maze. Well, we kind of are working on it. And a question about apprentices from Maura Sullivan. Can you talk more about the apprentices, how they are selected, and what is their time commitment? Mary, you want to kick that off?
Sure. So it's a year program. And as Hannah mentioned earlier, we work with other collaborators. So we have 4 other collaborators that work with transition age foster youth, and they refer the youth to us. So so then they're there for a year, and a lot of them get a lot of like backup support from those collaborators. And they get a stipend up until they're 21 even, but also it has extended through COVID because COVID's been a huge pressure for a lot of the youth. So they've extended that stipend a little bit, at least this year, as long as they're working 20 hours a week or going to school 20 hours a week. So that's the 20 hours that we give them.
Jack, do you want to add to that answer?
No, I think Mary covered it, although, we do rely on our core collaborators that you mentioned earlier, First Place for Youth, Uplift Family Services, Youth Homes, and the Contra Costa County ILSP, who are our primary collaborators who refer to the youth, and they provide ongoing support, including housing assistance, and other services that the young people need that we can't provide. They're extremely valuable to us, and we couldn't function without them.
Thank you. Thanks for asking about the apprentices. They are the heart and soul of our program, and they're amazing people to get to know. Which relates to one of the questions that Kathleen Richards is asking: are there volunteer opportunities at the farm? If so, what are the minimum commitments each week? And what if I'm not a master gardener? Well, Kathleen, we would love to have you come out, and we don't have any necessary time commitments. So Mary and I will be throwing up our email addresses up on the screen pretty shortly here. And so please just reach out to us and we'll connect you with some of the different opportunities that are coming up this year. So we'd love to have you. Yeah, anyone else want to add to that answer?
No, I think you did great, Hannah.
Thanks, Mary. All right. So this is kind of a fun question that I'm interested about too. Why do some veggies turn colors when they're growing, like change colors? Maybe like
Peppers.
There you go. Yeah.
You know, I don't know the specifics of why that is, Hannah, or whoever asked that question.
Stephen.
But I do know that usually when just a little thing about peppers is when we harvest a pepper green, it's actually not ripe. And that's just how we eat like green bell peppers or jalapenos. But eventually they do turn red or yellow. I'm trying to think of other colored vegetables that change.
Well, Stephen's mentioning tomatoes, that they turn like green to red, green to yellow.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that's just, well, I don't know the science of that, Stephen, but I do know that when they're red, they're ready. Except for the green tomatoes. There are green tomatoes, and actually my favorite tomatoes are called green doctors, and they never turn red or yellow or anything else. They just stay green.
Nice. Well, thanks all for asking a bunch of questions, and sorry we may not have gotten to every single one. Got a few more slides here that I'd like to share with you guys and see if we've got some more questions at the end. So say goodbye to our beautiful cabbages up there on the screen. So if you haven't got enough of this Twilight mania, you can come visit us next week and learn about Mars. We're doing a stargazing with Astronomical Society of the Pacific. And so you can register on our website, same as you did here. And then this is the slide I was promising you. I didn't tell you there was a great picture of Mary in our greenhouse in it though. There she is tiptoeing through the greenhouse like a greenhouse elf. Please reach out to us. And Jack's email address as well is jack@familyharvestfarm.org. I believe that's Jack, is that your email address?
Yes, Anna, it is.
Great. And so feel free to reach out to us to get involved. We would love to see you out at the farm. And so I'm gonna stop sharing and let's see. We've pretty much got all of the questions here. So Mary, is there anything else you'd like to add before we sign off?
Not that I could think of, except for I am so grateful for all your everyone who's come, their support and of the farm. It's something that we care really, really deeply about. And it's really nice to know that we're not the only ones.
Jack, how about you? Any final goodbyes?
Yes, Hannah, thank you. I think the question on volunteers, we really need volunteers. So you don't need skills. If you know how to handle a hoe and you can pull weeds, you'll be extremely valuable. So please if you want to come out, it's very engaging. You'll enjoy it. Just contact Hannah if you want to come out there. So we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
That's perfect. Yep, we'll see you all at the farm. So thanks for joining us tonight.
Bye-bye.